Andreas Schönenberger, welcome to the Executive Talk. When I did a little bit of research about you, I found out you're not that easy to find on the internet. You don't have let's say a big digital presence. Is it a coincidence, or don't you like to be in there?
First of all, thank you very much for having this opportunity to talk to you, Mr. Gredig. I'm on Facebook, and I have a lot of interactions with people in the digital world. And I also get a lot of clients who actually directly get in touch with me. So judging from that, I actually believe that I have quite a presence, and whoever wants to find me, and I'm inviting everybody to directly talk to me if they wish to do so.
Okay, so it was maybe just my perception, because I was thinking, for someone who's got so much to do with data, with digitalization, I thought you're quite shy in that regard. But if you tell me the opposite, I'll take it that you know that better than me. But it leads me to the question of data is in everybody's mind at the moment, and it is one of the future big topics. How much do you deal with these questions on an everyday basis?
I mean, for us, of course, data is very important. I mean, in the context of digitization, I see the three elements, if you put it very simple, that on the one hand, you have the whole commercial side of digitization, which is a website and so on and so forth. And there, of course, you need data in terms of optimized interaction, personalization. Then, of course, you have the whole internal aspect of digitization, the internal operations in terms of automation. And there as well, data is important in order to help you, and analytics to optimize that. And then, of course, really to get an understanding from the way you actually can better serve the clients and optimize the organization, data is absolutely key.
It is key for a lot of things. However, a lot of people are kind of afraid of that data topic and that data issue. Do you understand their, let's say, reluctance or their shyness or their fear as well?
Absolutely. I think what is important is that you use data in a responsible way. And the way we use data is in particular in an aggregate way, so that it is actually sanitized. And in this way, we can figure out what type, for example, of customer would benefit from what type of offer. And this is not then linked to Mr. XYZ individually, but really generally speaking in terms of how we can optimize the way we actually serve customers, and this in a, I would say, anonymous way.
Mm-hmm. And in a responsible way, as you say. Can we be sure that this is actually the case in the wider industry, in people and companies who are actually dealing with data?
I mean, in general, of course, it's the responsibility of everybody who is dealing with data. And secondly, it's, of course, also in relation to the government and the regulations that have to be set accordingly.
Mm-hmm. Is that done in Switzerland?
I think in Switzerland we have very good understanding in terms of what means dealing with data in a responsible way from a company perspective. In terms of regulation, I think we are quite restrictive, and sometimes so restrictive that it is actually difficult for new business models to use data and be competitive in relation to global players. But I'm quite confident that in Switzerland we have a very good view on how to actually deal with data and to set up the regulations and the frameworks.
From the industries, you often hear, yeah, it's because of regulation, it's because of the state, and it's because of politics. But you would say, yes, that's part of it, but it's also something that comes within us.
Absolutely. And there are also, let's say, good things that we are quality-oriented in Switzerland. But you know what I've learned also with the digital and the internet is very often you are successful by launching things early on in an early beta stage, and then you improve it while it's already out there. Whereas our mentality usually is, to a large extent, whatever we do should be a high quality when we bring it to the market. And so this is a little bit a different approach, but I would say that is also and is specific to Switzerland, that we have this quality aspect, which I actually believe is something good, The only thing we have to do is to see how we can combine it in order still to be fast and able to scale quite rapidly.
Speaking of fast, you work in a fast-moving industry. Telecommunication is not the same as it was 10 years, 15, 20 years ago. It is a very heavily contested area, contested industry. You, with Salt, fight against big ones here in Switzerland as well. How big is the pressure for you?
I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right. Telecom industry is very rapidly changing. And I think that also makes it very intriguing. I have to say it's absolutely great and exciting to work in such an industry because there are always new technologies and there's market changes that are happening. And that is motivating us to really seize these opportunities that emerge from these changes.
But there is pressure.
I mean, of course, we are the challenge in this market. And that's for us really the ambition to be better than our competitors. And I think what we have been able to achieve with what we have just launched with Salt Fiber to come up with a product that is technology advanced, the first actually in the market worldwide with the 10 gigabit technology.
And it's a fixed package for home.
Absolutely. Kind of that really allows us to disrupt the market. And then, of course, at the price, which makes it affordable for everybody. And when you look at the Swiss market, usually prices are always quite high. But if we want to make a contribution to the digital strategy of Switzerland, it means that it should be accessible and affordable for everybody. So bringing new and best technology to a market at the price where everybody can afford, that's exactly what has to be done and provided by the telecom industry. And that's exactly what we did. And we are very enthusiastic about this.
That was, in a way, the sales or the marketing pitch for your new product. It's a very lucrative market as well. Even if the prices always go down, it has to be said. I mean, for the consumer, it doesn't get any more expensive. If there's one direction, it's going down. But it is a very lucrative market. Are you looking forward to the months and years to come and just smiling all the time because you know you're in a market that's going to grow?
It's a very interesting market, and it's a good market to be in there because there are so many changes that there are always new opportunities that are opening up. And I think the companies that are winning are those that are best able to actually seize these opportunities and bring attractive products to the market. And of course, you have to be also very close to the market as a company, but also as a person. And you're absolutely right. It was, let's say, my sales pitch. And I think the CEO is always the first salesman in every company. And of course, I also want to be the person that clients can directly contact. And that actually happens quite often. And I think it's important to be really involved at the front and everywhere within the organization so that actually you can keep pace with all the changes that have to continuously be done in an organization in such a fast moving industry. So you have to be really agile as an organization. You have to make decisions quite fast in order to really be at the front of these changes in such an industry and to actually also drive it.
How much is that you who drives that? Because you've been here for 2 years now. You've worked for Google before. You were CEO there. How much did that influence your way of working here? You say you want to be open. You want to be you want to be in the midst of it. You don't have an office here, so you want to be in touch with the people you work with. Is that the old Google spirit in a way?
I mean, in general, I think it's the culture of technology, but it's always a team that achieves things. I mean, everything we do, we actually achieve as a team. That's quite clear. Everybody plays his roles. And what is very positive and optimistic I'm about is really that we support each other across various levels, be it from the shareholders, the management team, the people in the field, the people in the stores. So everybody really works together for the common goals and everybody understands where we are going. So that for me is really a culture that we have definitely shaped, and I contributed to it in the last years I have been here. We have very flat hierarchy, we are very entrepreneurial, and everybody brings his or her knowledge and skills into the game in order to achieve these ambitious targets that we have.
You don't wear a tie. Is that a deliberate choice?
I don't very much like to wear a tie, to be honest.
But I mean, it goes with that. That it's really like it's a tech environment. It's a let's say a bit more a playful environment that maybe comes from your past. No?
I think for me and really the spirit you have, it's much more important what you do than what you wear, and that's really also the spirit.
When you talked about the industry and the market here in Switzerland, we said it's a contested market. You talked about the competitors. Is it the survival of the fittest market as well? I mean, is there space for 2, 3 big ones, or do you see the future being dominated by just one?
I mean, for us as a challenge, as I said, we of course are disrupting the market. By the products, the quality of the products that we bring, and also by the prices. And it has actually an effect that, of course, we brought down prices that the other players also adjusted them. And in this way, the consumers really benefited from that. And it changes also the market, that's quite clear. And overall, it is a market that is very competitive. And still, Switzerland is, I would say, in terms of price, still at the higher level than other countries. But, and this is very important, in Switzerland the price is important, but quality is a key thing in Switzerland. And for consumers, therefore, if you want to be successful, it's really both to bring great technology and quality to the consumer at the price that everybody can afford. And this is really where we position ourselves in terms of innovation, in terms of really having a good, let's say, price-performance ratio in terms of quality, and to be really simple. So, and for example, in Fix, we have just one offer.
Mm-hmm. So simplicity is part of your game as well. But when you talk about disruption, it often is the case that when someone comes to disrupt an industry, the one who was there before might just disappear. But in that case, you don't see, let's call them, Swisscom disappear from the market.
I mean, for us, it's important that we have a great product, that we can actually win clients. And overall, so we want to dynamize the market, and I think we have already been able to dynamize the market. And of course, we want to win clients and make sure that the market changes for the benefit for the consumer in terms of what they get, in terms of product range, in terms of quality, and in terms of price. And as I said, for me, when you want to make a contribution to the digital strategy of Switzerland, it means that you have to bring these services and make them accessible for everybody and at an affordable price. So, and this is what we as an industry in telecommunication actually have to do.
Let's switch topics for a second. I have to print that one out. I have to read it. What is that? Plastic excitations in the vortex system of type 2 superconductors, melting and pinning.
Yes, that was the title of my doctoral thesis in physics many years ago. So I actually did my doctoral thesis in superconductivity. These are materials that actually go into a state when you cool them down where there is no electrical resistance anymore. And there are 2 types of superconductors.
Oh, I didn't wanted to get all the details because I didn't understand it. I was just wondering, you have a PhD in physics. Why would you choose physics?
I was always intrigued to understand what the world is made of and what's also going to happen to us in the longer term future.
I read that you kind of found it intriguing that things that other people find difficult, maths, for example, physics, that you get behind those questions. Is that typical for you as well? That you're trying to go the hard way, maybe?
I mean, that's definitely true. That things that seem to be quite challenging, I really like to do, and that was true for many things in my life. But it has also to do with a passion. So it has to be both. It has to be a challenge, but it has also to be a passion that I'm really passionate about it.
Another thing you said is that working on a PhD like this taught you how to deal with frustration. Is that something that helps you now in your daily business life?
I think to learn that not everything works when you attempt it for the first time in your early years in career always helps for the future, because in the end of the day, I think what is important is when something doesn't work out in the first attempt, that you actually keep on going and push, and you will find a solution. I think that's very valuable learning for the whole life. That's absolutely clear, yes.
As someone who was terrible at physics and at maths as well, I was always wondering, how do you actually, and it was applied physics, so do you ever apply it in your daily life? I mean, do you often think about physical problems?
I mean, first of all, physics is everywhere. That's I think clear. And when I worked at ABB in the research lab, I applied theoretical, let's say, models and so on to real products that we developed, like superconductors, current limiters for utilities. And otherwise, physics is really everywhere, whether it's the weather that is changing, whether it's the cars, so the whole mobility, how a city works, it's in your watch, it's everywhere in your life. But so is it with other actually disciplines as well.
But that wide variety that you talk about in physics, did that help you as well? I mean, if I look at where you worked, I mean, you were in at ABB. You said it. You were in a consulting company. You worked for the health industry. You worked for Google, as we said. Now it's a telecom industry. Is that part of you as well? That that wide variety of interests, that you can work wherever you find something interesting.
I mean, it's absolutely true that the world is so interesting. There are many, let's say, topics that I would like to understand even better and more. And I think it's really the beauty of modern times that you can actually do that, to really concentrate on one topic for some years, then you do something else. And for me, that's really the most satisfactory and exciting thing in life, to experience so many different things, also to work in various countries, as you said, in various industries, in various areas within the company. I think that's really the beauty of modern times.
It almost sounds like a motto. Do you have a motto in business life that you want to give across as well to your employees, for example? Do you have like kind of a company corporate culture you want to get across?
I mean, I think what we discuss a lot internally is that we are ambitious and really passionate about what we do, and that we should not just give up if something doesn't work in the first attempt. And the team spirit is very important for us, and always to really address issues. So one of our mottos is also that we never kill the messenger. So we want to know about the issues, because then you can solve it and actually then achieve the
So you're open for criticism
goals
as well?
I think that's very important.
Is that an American way of thinking as well? I mean, you've dealt a lot with companies in Silicon Valley, of course, through Google. Is that something that we lack sometimes in Switzerland? That open culture, or that you can tell even your boss that something isn't going right? I mean, is that something you learned from these experiences?
I think I'm very Swiss, and I also like the Swiss values. But I think it just shapes you where you work and with whom you interact during your life. And I believe I was very fortunate to have all these different opportunities in my life to work in different companies in different countries. And I think for Switzerland, it is definitely good for everybody if you have this chance to work in companies that have different cultures, to learn from it, but also not just to copy what they do, but find your way how you actually want to live your life and what is important for you in terms of being able working in an environment where you can actually give open feedback to each other. And I think that's the most valuable thing, to receive open feedback, because this allows you to improve things.
To end the interview, let me get back to where we started with the digital topics and the digital challenges. When we talk about these tech giants at the moment, there is a change there as well, a change of perception, a change of image, a change of reputation. Companies like Google, Facebook, they all face their problems and challenges. Do you see a shift there as well, that the more powerful these companies get, the more skeptical we get, and the more they have to answer to certain questions? Is that a shift as well?
I think that's something in general. Big companies are in the spotlight and are always questioned. For me, it's much more the question why actually Switzerland has not yet been able to create a big company in the digital world.
Yeah.
So we have very big companies in consumer goods industry, in the financial services. And I actually believe that we have to work even more in Switzerland to create an environment from a cultural perspective, from a regulatory, political perspective, to help actually companies grow beyond the 10, 20 or 50 employee size. And that's for me the big, I think, challenge that we have in Switzerland, and to make sure that Switzerland in this new world of digitalization is able to create or let grow companies to become large and play an important role.
To be fair, that seems to be a European problem. I think Spotify is probably the only one in the top 30 that actually made it from Europe. Do we lack there as well? I mean, are we losing that fight against, if it's a fight, but are we losing that game against the US, against Asia?
You're absolutely right. It's also in Europe, and I think the only big company in the IT sector worldwide is from Germany, and that's definitely something we have to work on. But I would never, as my motto is, I would not give up just because it looks like this. I think we have to find a way to actually allow and to foster an environment where in Switzerland, in Europe, that actually we create the means that companies can grow and become big also in this digital space.
And finally, you're still in that digital space. We started the talk that you are on Facebook, and a lot of people might have that counter reaction now that, ooh, I have to be careful, but you will still be found on Facebook and all the other social media platforms.
I'm on Facebook, and I think it's important how you actually communicate in these social networks, and that's of course always depending on also the individual people. And in general, I think what should always be authentic and find his or her individual way how to actually use these new digital means.
An advice from an expert. Thank you very much, Andreas Schönenberger. Thank you.
Thank you very much.